Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Great to have you back here for the second day of sessions at our event. Welcome back to the folks who are coming to us from the live stream. You can't see the room that well probably from the live stream, or at least the audience, but really happy with the attendance at this event. We weren't sure after last event that we had in Dallas, big hub city, easy to fly into, what it would look like, but apparently the sunshine here in the resort were very attractive to the group. Sold out again. We had to add more chairs yesterday as you all didn't stay at the pool and actually came into the sessions, had more plates for lunch, so we appreciate you staying engaged with us. We're starting off the morning with some of the connections that we see at RESO, where we have prop tech companies connecting with MLSs, connecting with brokers, connecting with associations, and making those integrations happen with the in-person meetings, then obviously the follow-ups and the long-term relationships between these organizations. So we're excited to kick off the morning here, and leading us into this session will be James Rogers from RealReports.
Deep. Supersonic. Supersonic.
Morning. Am I on?
Supersonic motivating rhymes.
Is this on? Can you guys hear me? Good morning, everyone. First, I'm James Rogers, co-founder and CEO of RealReports. I just want to start off with a heartfelt thank you to Sam and the whole RESO team. I know how hard you all work to get us up here. It's always a privilege. This is my favorite conference of the year, so thank you for that. And also, thank you. This is the second time in as many years that my panel has been immediately following the morning alcohol, so I'm going to take that as a compliment that I am best listened to with a drink in hand, even if that drink is at 9:45 in the morning. So I'm here today to talk about supersonic integrations powered by RESO, which, had I known the agenda in advance, I might have titled it something different because my friends yesterday talked about light speed work powered by RESO, so I apologize if this actually seems quite slow. So with that said, this is something of a continuation of a conversation we've been having on stage for the past couple of years. A few RESOs ago, we had a great conversation first with a handful of prop tech companies talking about how they interact with MLSs, and then we followed that up with a conversation from some great MLS leaders talking about how they like to work with tech companies. In last fall, we had what I thought was a really interesting conversation around how when we collaborate together in this industry toward a common goal, we can actually add much more value. I think I gave this example where you might interact with 5, 6, 10 different companies as maybe an MLS member throughout even a day or maybe a transaction. But if we work together, it can actually feel like one. So then today we're going to talk a little bit more about the nitty-gritty of how do you actually get some of that done. So this is going to be a little more technical than some of these past ones. And then I'm going to invite some of my friends up on stage to have what I think is going to be a really interesting conversation about this. You might wonder why I care so much about this. I keep getting up here talking about integrating with other companies. For a little bit of quick context, in the last year, our firm has done over 100 integrations, so we think about this a lot. That includes MLSs, brokerages, data providers, other prop tech and vendors. So many of you are in the audience, so I appreciate all of you. It's been a privilege to work with many of you. So needless to say, we integrate a lot of data and we do it a lot of times. But stepping back, there's actually an even more important reason why I care about this, and that it's you all, so many of you in this audience work so hard to achieve what we work on in this room. I think RESO compliance, I think it'd be hard to overstate how much of an effort on capital and time and just various aspects for you to go actually make things compliant. Now, I'm here to tell you that I think probably sometimes the impact of that might be abstract to you. Because a lot of us in this room are beneficiaries of that, where we say, okay, you're actually doing that, and I think there are a lot of companies in this room that literally could not exist in the way that they do now if you weren't doing that. So to RESO and all of you for the effort that you put in this room, I personally thank you. Now, nothing on this slide is going to be surprising to anybody in here, but no matter how large or how small you are, company resources are always going to be finite. Now, demand on those resources is always going to be infinite. Now, if we cannot balance those two things, then of course, slow output is going to lead to sad partners, which none of us wants. So what I'm going to do is tell you a quick example of some of the things that we've seen in market, many of which were even in the last year, for some of the things that didn't necessarily go as well. And this is not meant to criticize anyone. I think it's more of an opportunity to improve. And then I'll tell you a quick anecdote for something that we experienced recently that we thought went really well. So with that said, these are some of the things, like I said, that we've seen even as recently as the last year. Maybe something like our listing feed is a static JSON file that updates once a day. Now, I think we probably all talk about the various drawbacks of what that looks like, but if data recency is on average 12 hours at best, there are a lot of things that just aren't possible. This next one's one of my personal pet peeves, but let's have a meeting to talk about a meeting, to talk about a meeting, to talk about how we might work together. Now, you might accuse bureaucratic morass for the reason for that, but I actually think that this is a standards issue, because I think if you really adopt and embrace standards, then I think there are a lot of times where you can build something where all it requires is an email. You may not even need a meeting to talk about it, because you all understand that there's consensus around what you're building and how it's built. It can move much more quickly. We actually hear things like, what is RESO? Sorry, we don't use a UOI. Every MLS in this room has a unique identifier maintained by RESO. It's one of those things that when we get that from another vendor that we're working with, and we can have that as consensus, it just cuts out one more email, one more meeting, because we can agree going into this that we know we're going to use that collectively. Something like, sorry, we don't actually have SSO, just we'll hash a handshake and you could trust us, I promise, or you could just, sure, nothing's gonna go wrong if we do it this way. What's a UPI? Personally, I'm a huge proponent, a huge fan of the work being done on this. It's one of those things that I think if we can agree on that and then not rely on proprietary identifiers, again, makes things move a lot more quickly. And then my personal favorite, that's a neat little product you got there. It's gonna cost us this much to do that integration for the other vendor or that MLS. Somebody's gotta pay, we'll figure it out. While I of course understand that RESO has no opinion about this, I think we'd probably all agree that this does not speed things up. Now, just to give you a little bit more of a tactile implementation of what this looks like, we see things that you'd really expect in this room always exist. They're undefined, they exist multiple times. We see that with things as simple as a zip code or a street number or a street name. So needless to say, you have to write a lot more code when that's what a feed looks like, because you don't have things that I think in this room we've come to understand to be standard. So obviously, if we don't know what the input looks like, it's hard for us to know what the output is going to look like. And I don't think any of us like that. So to go through a bit more of what we've seen in market that goes really, really well, it's things like a RESO-compliant data feed, obvious in this room, of course. Web API. Sam was able to share some statistics. I know we're making a great amount of progress toward this. I love this when that's the type of feed we get. We know it's going to move a lot more quickly. OIDC for SSO. RESO, understandably, is not opinionated about collaborative authentication mechanisms. This is more of a personal preference for me. I think we agree on OIDC as the shared protocol. It's one of those things that I think we understand generally. It's going to move a lot faster. What I would advocate for, and I think would be an interesting conversation at the RESO level, is regardless of what protocol you might be using, could we use the RESO member object as the actual exchange? Once we've made that handshake, we've agreed on shared authentication, can you actually return the RESO member object? Because now we know we don't need to do additional mapping on the back end, just like when we get a listing feed that way. UOI is shared identifier. I already talked about this. It's one of those things that makes things move a lot faster. And then of course, nobody's charged, because we understand that we're building together. We're building up this industry together. We're collaborating toward a common goal to improve things collectively. This is an actual tactical example that we'll get a chance to talk about on stage in just a second. But we were recently asked to build an integration for Hive, and it was with FBS. So what that required is we needed to do SSO from Flex MLS into RealReports. We needed to ingest the entire Hive listing and member feed, which is powered by Spark API. And then we needed to automate a RealReport every time a listing gets entered into the MLS system so that we could supplement a huge amount of data with that listing. So on the right, it's going to be very hard to read. I understand that. These are some screenshots of some real emails. But what I did do for you is take out the timestamps that you see on the left here. So 3/26, I think, was a Wednesday. You see 3:23 p.m. Hive sent out an email connecting us as vendors. About 4 hours later, we got an email from FBS saying, we're done. And what you can see on the right here is a screenshot of that SSO handshake working for the MLS, where you can authenticate into our product. It took them that long. And I think Tyler can share some anecdotes about this later. And then the next morning, 8:09 a.m., Hive shared Spark API credentials with our firm. About 2 hours later, we were able to email back and say, this is done. We're fully ready for production. Now, I think that was actually about 18 hours, but needless to say, across 3 organizations, in less than 1 day, because everyone was adhering to those standards, we were able to get a rather complex technical integration done, again, in less than 1 day. Now, I will beat this drum until I'm blue in the face, but none of that could happen without this room and the effort that you're all putting in. It's the standards, it's this collaborative approach that we have, because I know we're all passionate about this industry and improving it. So I will keep saying that I think that we work together, 1 + 1 really can equal 3. So to summarize that, and I'm gonna invite my friends on stage, I think if we could do things like universal adoption of the UPI, again, it's one of those things that I think would really accelerate things. UOI adoption by more tech vendors as the standard. Again, this is my opinion, but OIDC standard for authentication, especially if we could use the RESO member object as the standard behind that. Universal adoption of Web API, I know we all talk about that a lot. I'd be thrilled to see when we get to 100% on that. And then I'm gonna let Tyler talk about this in a minute, but a trusted partner integration tool. I don't wanna steal his thunder because I think it's a really neat idea. But with that, I'm gonna invite my friends on stage, and I think we're gonna have a great conversation about how we actually all build together.
Deep. Supersonic. Supersonic. Supersonic motivating rhymes are creating. And everybody knows that JJ fast.
All right, hi everyone. So I'd love to start just maybe with a quick intro, just give kind of name and where you work. Just, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the folks on stage, but just a quick introduction.
Garry, Marsoubian. I'm the CEO of MLS Now in Cleveland, Ohio. Spent a lot of years in the business on the East Coast with MRIS and Bright. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Paula Nash with Hive MLS. I'm the CEO there. And Sam, this is bullshit. Tyler.
Yeah, hi, Tyler Decker with FBS, creators of Flex MLS. I'm the director of product.
Sara Fogg with Prime MLS. I'm the Director of Product and Implementation.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. So I'd love to start, and I gave that anecdote about a recent project we worked on. I know, Paula, you've got a lot of thoughts on that. So I'd love to hear your input on kind of adding context to how that went for you and maybe how others could look to do something like that.
You may have to skip me. He wants to see my pen.
Oh, okay. Sure. Well, then, Tyler, maybe we'll skip ahead. I know everybody in this panel has been eagerly anticipating your idea here, so I'll let you get into it, but I know you've talked about a trusted partner integration tool.
Yeah, the caveat here is this is by no means a commitment that we are going to build this thing. This is really just something that we've been kind of noodling on. And I mean, having a full integration SSO reports everything live in 18 hours is incredible. But what we've been thinking about is what if that was 1 hour? What if with trusted MLSs and partners like you guys, or we have hundreds of integrators as well, where we've done these things many, many times and it's pretty standard integration points. What if we built up a tool so us, FBS, our integrations team, didn't really have to do anything? You could plug in the keys, the integration points, the checkboxes about, you want it in search, you want it in listings, and really just kind of offload all of that work to the people that actually would do it, and we would be on the sidelines to kind of QA and test and watch and be available for support, but that would open up our staff to be able to work on other integration things that we want to do. So
it's dicey, Tyler. I think the idea, your risk with having an idea that good is that there are a lot of people who are going to actually ask for it now.
Yeah, I mean I assume there's some demand for it, and I kind of wanted to plant the seed so that people would come find me and talk to me about it. And is there interest? I mean, a question we have is, are third-party vendors willing to do some of that work in the spirit of speed?
Well, Paula, if you've got a mic now, then I know you've got some thoughts on this as well.
Testing. Yeah, okay, I'm here. All right, so the biggest thing for us on this integration and to be able to do it in the timeline that we did was knowing who those people are. Who are your key players at the vendor themselves, and training your staff accordingly. So a lot of vendors will give you this random support email. Those are not the people that's going to help you integrate. So finding out who the right people are and the doers of the group is key on that. So we put everybody in on the same email from the jump, which streamlines the entire process. So our staff is trained accordingly. We know who those players are, and we put them to work, and 18 hours is the result.
I love it. Thanks, Paul. Sara, I know you've got some thoughts on. I want to step back a little bit. Why is any of this important to you? I mean, I guess the MLS is evolving. You're such an instrumental part of the industry, but why integrate at all?
Well, when you take a step back, when I started 19 years ago, we were focused on being the best customer service company that we could to our members. And that's not what we are now. Even if it was what MLSs were back in the day, we're now technology companies. And we have to evolve, and we have to integrate new products and services and try and give the best that we can to our members overall to show our value. And quite frankly, it's fun. Bringing new products online and hearing back from people saying, hey, that's great, we're so glad you guys did that. It's just some affirmation that we're doing the right thing.
Well, I know you do a lot of this as well. I guess what does success look like for you with some of these integrations?
So I think success, a lot of people think it's like you get 10 to 12%. Once in a while, you get that unicorn. For us, it was actually RealReports. We integrated them in May of last year. We're less than a year. Within 6 months, we had over 30% adoption. It's almost unheard of for it, but it's when you know you're doing something right and when you're partnering with the right team. But we also turn around. Luckily, Relevate, our dashboard provider, did our telemetry for us, so I can go in and see if the products are getting used or not. So I can evaluate whether or not we've put something out there that we thought would be great, and the agents just are not adopting it, and it's just not something they need, and vice versa. We know when somebody's doing really well and when it's being used.
And they're of course great. There are probably, I don't know, 100 different vendors that are in this room that could be sitting on stage with us that could all speak to this and what that looks like, but certainly that's great as well. Garry, I have a question for you. You also do a lot of this, you've done a lot of this, so when you go into an integration, what are some of the things you're most concerned about? What are the maybe the landmines you're trying to avoid, or some of the things that you're most concerned with that you want to mitigate going into it before you even start?
Out of the gate, I want to protect the data. I'm huge on data destiny and autonomy, protecting the broker's data based on the fact that we are the custodians of that data. So before any engagement occurs, we've seen the product, we think it works, we think it's great, we want to move forward with it. We do have a policy statement, a data agreement, plus a policy statement, which has a bunch of check marks of, are you going to do this? What's happening with this? Every check mark doesn't have to be marked, but it is a good boilerplate to move forward to make sure that the vendor or the developer understands that we're serious about protecting the data. That data autonomy and destiny is huge for me. It has been since I was 26 when I was at MRIS at first. That was always a huge concern for us. Ability, with integration, it's an integration. Check the check marks. If you get 5 out of 10, I think we can move forward. But with larger vendors, I want to make sure that data is accessible to me at a snap of a finger, and I can do what I want with it for my brokers, for our marketplace, and developing various platforms of my own if I want to, et cetera. So that's very, very critical, and my board feels the same way. Data protection is key for us in any engagement.
Absolutely. Paula, you look like you got something to say about that.
Of course I do. I always have something to say about everything. Those of you that know me know this. Yes, we, as you know, we were just recently in the news around our partnership with Sorcery, and that whole premise was because we wanted to be in charge of our own data. With that, I mean, a lot of the vendors will tell you that you own your data, and you do by the contractual standard. But the truth of the matter is you don't have any data sovereignty. You can't do what you want to with your data. So through our partnership with Sorcery, we're able to do exactly what we want with our own data.
So I think we're all impressed with what you've done so far there. A lot of MLSs in the audience, what sort of advice might you give to them if they're thinking about doing something similar to that?
I would say align your team, talk to those that have done it, and really, I mean, by doing this, you'll remove the roadblocks that the vendors will put in your way. For whatever reason, they do have their own, and they're all different. They do come up with the different roadblocks as to why, but I would say that talk to us. I mean, we've done it. So we're happy to help those that want to follow suit.
Sarah, what do you think about that?
I think it's great. But the other thing is if you're not, get RESO standardized, because it makes a big difference when they're working with Source RE, we're working with RE Core. And if your data is standardized, it's one-to-one, and it's such a much smoother process than if they've got to spend even more time mapping and trying to figure out what goes where. So standards
Absolutely
matter.
Tyler, I mean, you guys are right in the middle of this at the technology side. What do you think about all that? I mean, again, you're helping many people in the room with something similar.
Yeah, I mean, the way that we think about integrations just in general, like the surface area in an MLS system is massive. Like no company can build all of the things that it does. And so like when we can partner with best of breed people, whether it's what you guys do or a CRM or a CMA or whatever, we can extend the value of the system without having to build it and maintain it and innovate on it ourselves. And so like we see it like you're kind of 1 + 1 = 3. That's how we see the world.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Sarah, I know you've always been to a lot of these RESOs.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of people, companies, vendors, MLSs, whatnot. what are some of the things that you've learned at your time in RESO, how you can take the most advantage of your time here?
I'll be honest, RESO is my favorite conference of the year, and it's because I have time with my vendors. I have time to either talk with my partners or discuss with new prop tech people coming on board, looking at their products. I had something yesterday where I had something I've got to solve between two vendors, and we were able to sit at a table and have both companies represented and talk about what the issue was and go through to make sure that both sides truly understood what was going on. And that's something that you don't necessarily have time to do at the other events, but with RESO, you do.
Yeah, well, probably a lot of us could spend a week here trying to fit.
Absolutely.
It's easy to fill our time that way. I love that. Well, so shifting gears, what about, so of course, I think we do a lot of that at RESO. I think we've all built integrations together. What are some of the things to avoid? Or maybe what are some of the landmines that when people are thinking about how to build integrations or how to, and I know we're talking about RESO standardization, of course that's a critical part of it, but maybe at a higher level, maybe start with Paula. What are some of those things to avoid? Or maybe even again, not naming names, of course, that's not what this is about, but what are some of the opportunities that we have to improve? I shared a couple technical anecdotes in my slides, but what are some of the things some of the gotchas or a bad experience you've had that you might like to avoid in the future?
I think the setting this expectation, much like what Garry was talking about, knowing the check marks and knowing what you have to accomplish, I would say that clear communication from the beginning. I have heard back from a lot of vendors that some of us in this MLS world, we send in the request, but we're not really clear about what that request is. So I think setting that expectation to begin with and making them understand that we do expect them to respond in a timely fashion and we do not expect to be put in a queue. So making those things clear from the very beginning is super important, and I think Garry can back me up here and add in.
No, absolutely. Communication, expectations, timelines, making sure that relationship is solid enough to get what you need from various parties. In most cases and most models, there's always a third party. An integration with you, James, isn't just us. There's 2 or 3 other players in the mix. Runway is important. Make sure that communication is happening early. Make sure the expectations are there, like Paula said. Everybody throws around the word partnerships. Partnerships are great, but you know how many times I've had HP or Cisco or IBM tell me they want to partner with me? What is it going to take? They just want to hand me an invoice. I like alliances. I like alliances where the vendor X has my back. Everyone's working together. We're in bloody waters, and we know it, right? We went through that insanity last year all together. They took away a C, and we've got cooperation. We need to add collaboration, communication, and for me, the customer is absolutely critical. I think there's new ways of working together, whether it's another MLS, a neighboring MLS, a legacy vendor, or the new kids on the block, which are many of them.
Be careful with that word legacy. They did not like that.
Yeah, well, legacy meaning they've been around a while. Those relationships have to be built. Those alliances have to be built. The MLSs need to step up and decide what they want to be. Do you want to be a vendor-reliant organization, which we all have to be, or do you want to step up a little bit and become an integrator yourself, become a data company, or become a technology company? Pick one. You want to be a vendor-type organization, do it. But I think people need to step up and actually do more to add value to the brokerages and to the subscribers. I really believe in that. I think value, new technology, new ways of doing things is the way to go. The blood in the water, it's red waters. I sometimes wonder in the middle of the night, who's the new competition? Is the competition another MLS? Maybe. Is it a vendor? Is it the broker? So by proxy, all these things are happening. All of us need to step up. Our jobs are to create an open, healthy, transparent, reliable marketplace for real estate. Underneath that, we have to deliver timely, efficient, meaningful, and complete data and secure that data. Absolutely. So plug for RESO, how do we do that without a standard? So I've been a fan since day one.
Absolutely.
And I'll continue to be a supporter. Remember, there was a guy named Greg Petch ages ago. If anyone remembers him, he was one of the founding members of RESO. He actually used to call me Grasshopper. And I realized then, because I was mainstream IT, that without that standard, this data was going to be chaos.
Yeah.
So all the things I'm talking about are just a piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely.
I got to tell you, in my opinion, RESO is the most stable, reliable aspect of our industry, I think, at the moment, based on all the chaos that's going on. None of what we just talked about is possible without that standard.
Sarah?
You know, where they were talking alliances and communication, it's another, it may not be a pitfall, but it could be. If you're a prop tech company and you're in an alliance or a partnership with one of us, communicate. Reach out either monthly or quarterly or talk to your MLSs so that you're keeping those lines of communication open. We shouldn't just have to talk to you when we have a problem. You should be letting us know what's going on. Talk to us about, hey, we've got this coming up. Hey, we have an idea that we want to implement this. What are your thoughts on that? But keep those lines of communication open.
Yeah, I agree with that totally, Sarah. That I will say, you know, at Hive, we offer several platforms for our subscribers, but we do have one, and I'll shout out to FBS here, that we have biweekly meetings just to touch base, see what's happening, what problems do we need to solve, or, you know, maybe even a shout out of a good job. So having that constant communication is key, for sure.
If I may, on that, yesterday's pain point session, there was someone who stood up and was talking about not having information from the MLS. I think it was north of our borders. I really picked up on that, and I'm like, wait a minute. Communication goes two ways. It's a two-way street. Reach out to the MLS. You know, the MLS is maybe dealing with some crisis at the moment in many, many ways. I don't remember who it was that made the comment, and I empathize with that. But create the means of communication and build a cadence to communicate. Whether you're a vendor, you're a third-party application company, create a Teams platform, create something in Jira, create something in Slack. Keep the communications going. It's very, very important. That stuck out at me yesterday when she made that comment.
Yeah.
You all need to be talking together.
You know, something struck me when you just said that is, there was also a comment yesterday, not in the pain point session, but I think what James Dwiggins was talking about on stage. I think, of course, MLS is evolving. Like you said, your crisis is your word, not mine, but you all put in so much effort to really build up the industry. I mean, I don't think it's too far to say that, again, we all in this room agree that real estate industry could not exist without MLSs. That's why we're all here, right? I mean, but I think most of the reason that gets talked about is data. Now, one of the things that I think about is I actually view the MLS in part of its current form as something like an incubator for technology in this industry. I think you all build a lot of it, but I think there are a lot of companies in this room, and I happen to run one of them, that couldn't exist without the MLS, not just because of the data, but because of the partnerships. So one of the things that I was thinking about after James made a comment on stage yesterday is, you put in all this effort, you spend all this money and time, and you have employees that are building these things. What are some opportunities that MLSs might have, and that you could at least be thinking about for how you might participate in the upside when that happens? I know lots of contracts have different structures, but have you all put thought into that? I mean, Paula, I know you just had some news about something related to that.
Yeah, so we actually invested in Sorcery to help build this, further this technology, and we felt like we were trying to gain that data sovereignty that I mentioned earlier in regard to how we want to use our data. It's ours, and we should be in charge of it. So I think you could go in that way. I think there's other vendors in this room that could help you forward your plan around that, and Tyler mentioned this. I mean, I think Tyler opening up the back door, if you will, letting us have a little more control as to what those integrations look like, and giving us the key to some point of, if we are a trusted partner. And, you know, Hive's all about collaboration. You know, we're a bunch of bees over here. So I think, you know, what your idea would be key.
Tyler, I told you you're going to have to build that now.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm coming.
Yeah,
Talk to me about it. I mean, the thing with the integrations, the first one that we do with the new MLS and a new partner is always the slowest, and it's because we go slow so we get it right. Because usually the way that we do it that first time, then we turn it into check boxes so that when we turn, you know, Hive on in 18 hours, MLS 2, 3, 4, 5, we can do those really, really quickly. And so being intentional and thoughtful up front about how do we want to integrate, where are the right levers to insert this stuff is what we want to get right to begin with.
Absolutely. So we're coming up on time. So I just think one thing that I'd love to hear from maybe each of you, if you have time, just a couple of seconds, is do you have maybe a nugget of advice that you could give to maybe some of the companies in here that are starting to think about how they might work with MLSs, how they'll be doing integrations, whether it's technical or relationship driven? Do you have thoughts on what people could be doing as they're building some of their own framework for how they're going to do that? So just advice to...
Throw it out there. I'll go back to alliances and opportunities to incubator. You mentioned incubator. All right, well, you're not ready yet. Well, let me pilot it. Let me grab 10, 15, 20, 30 top producers or admins that would be interested in that application across multiple brokers, and let's do a pilot program. This doesn't just apply to the vendors and the developers within our industry. Go out and mainstream as well and do the same thing with them and advise them that you're able and willing to run pilots to show value of the given application or solution. We don't show value very well, and I think by actually engaging in those alliances and coming up with new differentiating solutions based on innovation. Innovation doesn't mean you have a development shop of 50 people. You could start a pilot program of something no one else is doing and differentiate in that way. I think it's important that we understand that the whole frenemy comment, who's on our side and who's not. And as far as going outside of the existing industry vendors, could you do that easily and seamlessly and integrate as quickly without the data standard? Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, and my advice to you is get out of the norm. Stop being status quo, raise the bar, and make those that you're partnering with raise with you. Don't let them put up the roadblocks. Do some collaboration, have some conversations, and I don't know, do something different. Be the leader in the room.
Tyler?
I'd double down on your bullet about OIDC for authentication. With the times that we see time to go live really lag is when we can't figure out the authentication.
Yeah, agreed.
One-to-many, like if you're not an OIDC shop, like I would highly recommend you get on board.
I'm biased, but I agree. Sarah?
I'm going to take it a little bit different take. If you're in my position, Paula's position, these guys, the amount of emails that we receive from prop tech companies that are just sending them out there hoping to get a nibble. If you have a product that's coming up and that you feel would be great for MLS, and I'm going to give a shout out, and please don't get upset with me for doing this, but talk to Joe Schneider and the
Amen.
MLS
Yes,
Innovators
Joe Snyder.
Network.
Talk to him, yes.
Talk to Clint with T360. They go through vetting. These guys, they vet the products, they help you develop your pitches, and then they get you in front of 30 to 40 MLSs on a Zoom call. And then you're going to get feedback from that. So instead of hitting us all one-on-one that way, take advantage of these guys that do this for a living and let them help refine your product down to where you get it to a point to where we're really truly willing to
Yes.
take a step.
Let Joe do a technology audit for you. Find out what you need, what you don't need, what's working, what's not.
You're teeing up this next one nicely, I think.
Oh. Oops, sorry.
We're out of time here. Thanks so much, everybody. And I'm sure everybody on stage is going to be around in the back later if you'd like to continue the conversation. Appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.